The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. The Robredo-Pangilinan tandem has emerged as the most preferred candidates in mock polls conducted in various universities in the country. The opposition tandem received the most votes in the recent mock polls conducted at the Ateneo de Manila University, Far Eastern University, National University, UP Diliman, and UST. During a press briefing on Saturday, the student councils of Ateneo, FEU, UP Diliman, UST, as well as Adamson, also formally endorsed Robredo and Pangilinan for president and vice president. Robredo was also endorsed by the University of the East Student Council, citing results of its mock polls. However, UE has yet to endorse a vice presidential candidate, for it has yet to conduct its own vice presidential mock elections. Presidential candidates Norberto Gonzales and Ernesto Abella are not backing out from the May polls. That's despite admitting that they've been urged by some people to withdraw their candidacy. Gonzales even claimed that the representative of a fellow presidential candidate personally asked him to back out from the presidential race, while Abella revealed that some of his friends have advised him to give up the fight. Tarlac residents rushed to support the campaign rally of presidential candidate Bongbong Marcos, during which a monument for the late Ninoy Aquino was covered. Marian Enriquez with the details.
Supporters flocked to the campaign caravan of presidential frontrunner Bongbong Marcos in Tarlac City, a known bailiwick of the Aquinos. No less than Tarlac City Mayor Christy Angeles campaigned for the unity.
Tarlac City is for BBM Sara. Tapos na po yung mga nakaraan. Time to move on. Susunod na po tayo. Kalimutan na po ang mga nangyari noon sapagkat kailangan natin ang pagkakaisa para sa magandang kinabukasan.
The province of Tarlac is known as Aquino Country, the hometown of the late Senator Ninoy Aquino, who was among those who stood up against the dictatorship of strongman Ferdinand Marcos Sr. But it seems history has been forgotten as one Ninoy Aquino statue was covered with tarp during the Unitim rally. Some netizens took to social media and called out the act, saying they have disrespected Aquino. But for Mayor Angeles, it's high time to forgive and forget.
Pabayaan na natin yung mga bumabatikos. It's time for forgiveness and healing. Mag-unite tayo.
On the other hand, Tarlac Governor Susan Yap said the statue should have been respected.
Should have been done that way. We respect naman.
Meanwhile, Unitim Senatoriable Gibo Teodoro, a nephew of former President Cory Aquino, washed his hands on the issue.
Nakita naman natin ang init na pagsalubong kay BBM Sara. Palagay ko nagdesisyon na mga Tarlakenyo. At ako rin kasama nila at ako trinatrabaho ko bilang isang Tarlakenyo dahil inaako na rin namin sila. BBM Sara is not Tarlakenyo, nothing. It's for the whole Philippines.
The National Historical Commission of the Philippines weighed in on the issue, saying monuments should be protected and any disrespect should be prohibited by law. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
We'll be back with more stories after a quick break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. International arrivals increased further as the country opens its borders to fully vaccinated tourists from other countries. Shaila Francisco now joins us on the line from the NAIA to give us more details. Shaila, good morning. How are things going over there at the NAIA?
Charles, domestic and international flights here in the NAIA Terminal 2 have been arriving nonstop since 6 in the morning, and we're seeing an increase in foreign arrivals as well. To recall, the country opened its borders to fully vaccinated foreign tourists starting April 1. Some foreign tourists we talked to say they are staying for more than a week to visit friends and explore the country. The Immigration Bureau says international arrivals have reached more than 13,000 to 15,000 daily from April 1 to 2, from 10,000 to 12,000 in March. This includes Filipinos, balikbayans, and foreign tourists. The agency is expecting the figure to rise by as much as 14,000 per day because of the summer season in the country. The Tourism Department, meanwhile, noted that American tourists remain the top 4 arrivals this April, while tourists from the UK, South Korea, and Australia are also on the rise. But despite the gradual increase in arrivals, it's still far from the recorded pre-pandemic arrivals amounting to 40,000. The DOT, however, expects to reach that level by the third quarter of 2022. Charles, those planning to go home or visit the Philippines must present either a negative RT-PCR test taken 48 hours before departure, or a negative laboratory-based antigen test taken 24 hours before departing their respective country. Charles?
Thanks for that, and do stay safe, Shaila. That was Shaila Francisco reporting live from NAIA. In other news, Stone Cold Steve Austin returns to the WWE. On Saturday, Austin came out of retirement after 19 years, introduced by the iconic sound of shattering glass. He wrestled against Kevin Owens with a capacity crowd cheering in the background. Owens is known for dishing out Austin's famed move, the Stunner, after the latter retired. But in the end, the WWE veteran ended up using the same move to win their bout. It just goes to show that even after almost 2 decades, Stone Cold still got it. Brookings Institution senior fellow Angela Stent says Russian President Vladimir Putin may agree on a ceasefire with Ukraine, but he's unlikely to give up his long-term goal to subjugate his neighbor. Let's hear her insights on Bloomberg's balance of power.
Well, the Russian army is certainly not doing as well as they thought it would do. I wouldn't say the Russians are losing, but they're certainly not winning yet. So, we hear these rumors that he is being badly informed by those around him about what's going on. He doesn't really know fully what's going on, but he knows that the sanctions are hitting hard and they'll hit even harder. And there is some attempt for some negotiations. I think they're virtual at the moment. They met in person a couple of days ago. On the other hand, you hear completely contradictory signals from the Kremlin about whether any progress is being made in these negotiations. So one has to assume that he's sitting and stewing and thinking, how can they recoup this? How can they conduct a war which they can then say that they've won? And I think that's still a major challenge for them now.
There are, of course, discussions going on. Again, there were renewed virtual discussions today between the Ukrainians on the one hand and the Russians on the other. What do you think the path in negotiations is? Is there a potential diplomatic solution here that Vladimir Putin could accept?
Well, I think there is one. I mean, the Ukrainians are serious about negotiations. They've said they're willing to concede to the Russians that they'll declare neutrality. They won't try and join NATO, but they do want security guarantees from the outside world if they give up this. They've also said, let's talk about Crimea. Let's talk about the Donbass. Let's give, they've said 15 years to talk about the status of these regions, but we're willing to discuss it. So those are all demands that the Russians have made, and whether Ukrainians are willing to engage. The problem is, what is it the Russians are prepared to do? And of course, the demand is from Ukraine that the Russians have to withdraw all the troops to where they were before February 24th, when this war began. And so far, we haven't seen any sign from the Russians that they're willing to do that. But there is a deal that could be made. The question is, do the Russians want it? Does Putin, is he ready to do it at the moment? He could present this as a victory, saying, Ukraine isn't going to join NATO, so we don't have to be so concerned anymore. world.
Yeah, and as you just suggested, it's not what the Russians want, it's what one person, Vladimir Putin, wants, from everything we can tell from the outside. You know a lot about this man, and I welcome your view on this very hot-button issue. The United States has said regime change is not U.S. policy. At the same time, can you see a path forward to peace, not just ceasefire, but peace in Ukraine with Vladimir Putin at the helm in Moscow?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I mean, I can see a path towards a ceasefire that might last for some time, Ukraine making concessions, Russia withdrawing its troops. But I think as long as Putin's in the Kremlin, I doubt that he's going to give up his dream, if you like, his wish, his determination to subjugate Ukraine, to have a Ukraine that is wholly subordinate to Russia. And I think as long as he's there, he's not going to give up, but there may be a pause.
And those are the top stories at this hour. Join us later at 2 p.m. as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime and anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.